Good morning, students. I am Dr. Asha, and today I am going to teach you the topic mode of muscle contraction, part 1, because this is a long topic and it will be not covered in one class. Okay, a half part will be taught in the next part. Coming to the characteristics of muscle contractility. To understand the contractile response and its characteristic, it is essential to have knowledge about the following elementary aspects in relation to skeletal muscle. These are the contractile and elastic components of a muscle, concept about the muscle length, the motor units, and the contractile response. I will go through these headings, okay? And in this part, I will teach you about the contractile and the elastic components of the muscle, a concept of muscle, about muscle length and the motor unit. Now coming to the contractile and the elastic components of a muscle. These are the contractile components are the contractile component first, then the series elastic component, and the third one is parallel elastic component. In the figure below you can see the muscle is attached to the bone through tendons on both sides. You can see on the both side a cylinder like structure which is the bone, and it is attached to the muscle through tendon. And in the middle, in the lower side, is the muscle proper, that is the contractile component, which include actin and myosin. There are also series elastic component in the muscle. You can see on the side of the actin and myosin. These are also called the series elastic component, and the tendons which are present in series with the muscle are called series elastic component. And the parallel elastic components are the extracellular connective tissues and the structural proteins, that is that covers the protein, elastic tissue that covers the proteins. These are called the extracellular connective tissue. These are the parallel elastic component. Now coming to the contractile components. The contractile component represents the thick and thin filament present in the myofibrils. It is considered to be viscous in nature, that is, it offers no resistance to stretch and is unable to return to its original length after it has shortened. The contractile component comprises 60%, that is the 3/5 of the total protein. Now coming to the series elastic component. Okay, the series elastic component refers to that elastic tissues of the muscle which is present in series with the contractile component of the muscle. It consists of elastic tendon of the muscle. In the resting condition, the series elastic component offers resistance to passive stretch and explains how muscle is able to contract even when its external length does not change. Understand? That is isometric contraction. It means when there is contraction of the contractile component, there is change in length of the series elastic component. Okay, and the length of the muscle will not change. Now coming to the parallel elastic component. The parallel elastic component refers to the elastic tissue of the muscle which is attached parallel to the contractile component. The parallel elastic component is represented by the structural elastic tissue of the muscle, such as connective tissue sheaths of the muscle, sarcolemma and filaments. Presence of this component explains why the muscle regains its original length after it is passively stretched. There is elastic recoil of the muscle due to the parallel elastic component. In isotonic contraction, this component gets folded up. It also offers some resistance to passive stretch. The series elastic component and the parallel elastic component combinedly forms 40% of the total muscle protein. Now coming to the concept about muscle length. These are small terms we should know about that. Okay, in the next class these terms will come and we should know that the meaning of these terms. Now coming to the there is following concept about muscle length will useful in understanding the length or understanding the characteristic about muscle contraction. First is the optimum length. It refers to that length of the muscle at which it will develop maximum active tension. Okay, means after that, after stretching from the optimum length, there will be what will happen, the tension will decrease. Resting length of a muscle represents the length of the muscle during relaxed state under natural condition in the body. The resting length of many muscles in the body is optimum length. Okay, now coming to the equilibrium length, it refers to the length of a relaxed muscle cut free from its bony attachment. Means this is the length of the muscle when it is cut from the body, and you can tell that is in the experimental lab. Initial length, it is the length of the muscle before contraction. Now coming to the motor unit. What is motor unit? It is the functional unit of contraction in the intact body. It consists of single motor neuron cell body, its axon fibers and the muscle fibers innervated by it. I will you can see in the figure in the next slide. Okay, the cell bodies of the motor neurons, that are the alpha motor neurons supplying the skeletal muscle fiber, lie in the ventral horn of the spinal cord or the motor cranial nerve nuclei. Now you can see that even at rest, a skeletal muscle shows a small amount of muscle tone. It is due to weak involuntary contraction of its motor unit. Means these motor units are in a state of mild contraction, which helps the body to sustain posture. Okay, to sustain muscle tone, a small group of motor units are alternately active and inactive in a constantly shifting pattern, so that the muscle does not get fatigued, and this helps in maintaining the posture of our body, the sitting and the standing position, and even every time. Okay, here in the figure you can see the part of the motor unit. What I have told you, that first it is the single motor neuron. Okay, you can see motor neuron coming from the ventral horn cells. There is the part of spinal cord, motor neuron cell bodies in the ventral horn cells. It is coming out, motor neurons coming out from the ventral horn cells and goes to the muscle fiber. You can see here there are two type of motor units and they are supplying different muscle fibers. one muscle fiber is supplied by only one type of motor unit. Here there is motor unit 1 and motor unit 2. Okay, and the one muscle fiber is supplied by only one type of motor units. Now coming to the properties of motor units. Properties of motor units are: the number of muscle fibers in a motor unit varies inversely with the precision of movement performed by the part. Means the muscle concerned with fine graded precise movement, such as the muscles of the hand and those concerned with eye movement, there are 3 to 6 fibers per motor units. Means only 3 to 6 fibers are supplied by one motor unit. Okay, and in the muscles of the leg and back, there are 120 to 165 muscle fibers supplied by one motor unit. Okay, means uh, the amount of fibers supplied helps to decide the precision of the work. Okay, now coming to the next step, that is all the efferent fibers passing to a skeletal muscle are excitatory. Efferent fibers means motor fibers. Okay, means which performs action. All are excitatory. There are no efferent nerves which on stimulation produces relaxation of the muscle. That is, there are no inhibitory efferents as compared to the cardiac and the smooth muscle, where the efferent supply is both excitatory also and inhibitory also. Now coming to the next step, that is all the spinal motor neurons, in which only one kind of muscle fiber, that I have told you in the figure. Therefore all the fibers in a motor unit are of same type. Means one motor unit will supply only single type of muscle fiber. You should know that I will tell you there are two type of muscle fibers. Okay, and also there are two type of motor units depending upon the muscle fibers. The two type of muscle fibers are type 1, that is the red muscle fibers. Okay, and the type 2, that is the white muscle fibers. And depending upon the type of the muscle fibers, the motor units are also of two type, that is slow motor units, that is for the red muscle fibers, and the fast motor units. Okay, fast motor units for the white muscle fibers. Now coming to a term, recruitment of motor units. This is a topic that we have to discuss in detail, which will be taught in the next class. Okay, but I am giving you a little bit information. Okay, what is recruitment of motor unit? In normal individual at rest, there is a slow asynchronous discharge by the motor units, that is out of phase with each other. Means one motor unit will discharge its action potential at one time, the next motor unit will discharge at other time. There is a little bit asynchronicity. Okay, now this result in little spontaneous activity in the skeletal muscle with minimum voluntary activity. When one tries to do some work, there is voluntary activity in the muscle, then a few motor unit discharge, and with increasing voluntary efforts more units discharge are brought into play, and which will be synchronous. This process is called recruitment of motor unit. There is also gradation of muscle response. This will the detailed idea will be given in the next class. Okay, now coming to the table. Here there are the characteristic feature of type 1 and type 2 motor units that I have told you. You can see here the muscle fiber type of type 1 motor unit. The muscle fibers of type 1 motor units are slow, red and involved in tonic activity, and the muscle fiber of type 2 motor units are fast, white and involved in phasic activity. The motor unit innervation ratio of type 1 is high, that is, I have told you that 120 to 160 muscle fibers, that is the postural muscle. The postural muscles have less motor unit supply. Okay, and coming to the precise movements of the hand and the extraocular muscles, there is only 6 to 5 muscles supplied by one motor units. Okay, and now coming to metabolism. As you know that the type 1 type 1 motor unit supplies slow red muscle fibers, means there is metabolism is aerobic, low glycolytic and high oxidative capacity. The mitochondria number is high, the glycogen content is low, the capillary density is high, blood supply is high, myoglobin component is high. In muscle, myoglobin helps in oxygen supply. Okay, now the enzymes NADH and the phosphorylase activity is low and myosin ATPase activity is high. And you can see in the type 2 motor units, the metabolism is anaerobic, high glycolytic and low oxidative capacity. Okay, the mitochondria number is low, glycogen content high, capillary density low, blood supply is normal, myoglobin content is low, means it will get less oxygen supply. Enzymes are high, myosin ATPase activity is low. Now axon diameter of type 1 motor unit is small and that of type 2 motor unit is large. Axon conduction velocity is slow in type 1 motor unit and fast in type 2 motor unit. Now twitch duration of the muscle. These terms which are coming in the table now are not taught in this class, and you will be taught these terms in the next class, that is twitch duration of the muscle, tension, tetanic tension. Okay, this you can see here, twitch duration of the muscle is long in type 1 and brief in type 2. Tetanic tension is also small in type 1 and large in type 2. Now type of movements caused by type 1 motor units are there. These are adapted for tonic contractions, that is for posture maintenance, and are first to be recruited during muscle contraction. Okay, now in type 2 motor units, these are adapted for phasic contractions for small time. Okay, and skilled movements, and this remains in during contraction and recruited only when brief and powerful contractions is required. Okay, now coming to fatigability, fatigue resistance. So you can see that we can sit and stand for a long duration of time without getting fatigued, but the muscles of the precise movement get easily fatigued. Now coming to the types, the further types, type 1 motor unit has no further type, and the type 2 motor units have further type 2 C, A, B, okay, M and M. Now coming to type 2, okay, the type 2A are fast, fatigue resistant and glycolytic. 2B are fast, fatigable and glycolytic, and C contains muscle fibers found in fetal stage, and type 2 M are superfast, having unique myosin structure and present mainly in the jaw muscle. Now coming to the contractile response. What is this? Contractile response is the characteristic feature of a skeletal muscle that we know when stimulated an action potential is developed in the muscle fiber, which is followed by the muscle contraction. As we know, the muscle contraction is manifested either by shortening or development of tension or both. Sorry. The contractile response can be studied in an isolated muscle nerve preparation. In experimental studies, frogs gastrocnemius sciatic nerve preparation is used to demonstrate the different characteristics of a contractile response, and we cannot let you see these things in the slides. Now the contractile response of a muscle of a single to a single stimulus through its nerve can be recorded. A typical contractile response consists of a brief contraction followed by relaxation and is referred to a single muscle twitch. It is called single muscle twitch. This contractile response of a muscle can be discussed under following headings, that is the isometric versus isotonic contraction, single muscle twitch, and the factors affecting the force of contraction. This single muscle twitch and the factor affecting force of contraction will be taught in the next class. Now coming to isometric contraction. What is isometric contraction? By the name you can see metric means length and iso means the length will remain same. The length of the muscle remains same, but the tension is developed in the muscle, and there is thus there is no movement of the object because there is no change in length. Since work done is a product of force and into distance, therefore in isometric contraction no external work is done because there is no change in length, that is no distance is covered. How the muscle length remains same in an isometric contraction will be depicted in the picture in the next slide. Now coming to the examples of the isometric contraction, that will be the contraction of muscles which help in maintaining posture against the gravity, and the contraction of the arm muscle. You can see where when we try to push a wall, there is tension developed in the muscle, but there will be no change in length of the muscle. Here you can see isometric contraction. There is increase in tone, means tension is developed but the length is not changed. In the figure you can see how the length of the muscle is same at the resting length, but the tension in the figure in the side. Graph, here in the graph you can see the muscle length is at the 100, it is same throughout the time. And the tension developed is from 0 to 6. But you can see here that the tension is not overcoming the amount of resistance. The tension is not overcoming the resistance, and then again muscle relaxes. Now coming to isotonic contraction. As the name indicates, in this type of contraction, the muscle the tension in the muscle remains same, whereas its length decreases. Okay, since the muscle length is shortened, so the external work is done in isotonic contraction. Now here we in isotonic contraction, since there is the muscle length is shortened, so the external work is done in isotonic contraction. Okay, now coming to the examples, that is contraction of leg muscles during walking and running, contraction of muscles during lifting a weight, and contraction of muscle during flexion of arm. Now here in the figure you can see there is change in the length of the muscle during contraction. Okay, and in the here in the graph at the side you can see when the muscle stimulus was given and contraction started, the muscle length was at 0, and here at the as the time passes, first the muscle length has decreased to approx 70, and again then decreases. In that time you can see the tension developed is minimal. It means from 0 to 2.3 you can say there is peak tension is developed, and again muscle relaxes. Okay, means the tension developed is very minimal but the shortening is maximal. Now coming to the contractile components. The contractile component represents the thick and thin filament present in the myofibrils. It is considered to be viscous in nature, that is, it offers no resistance to stretch and is unable to return to its original length after it has shortened. The contractile component comprises 60%, that is the 3/5 of the total protein. Now coming to the series elastic component. Okay, the series elastic component refers to that elastic tissues of the muscle which is present in series with the contractile component of the muscle. It consists of elastic tendon of the muscle. In the resting condition, the series elastic component offers resistance to passive stretch and explains how muscle is able to contract even when its external length does not change. Understand? That is isometric contraction. It means when there is contraction of the contractile component, there is change in length of the series elastic component. Okay, and the length of the muscle will not change. Now coming to the parallel elastic component. Now here in this slide I am going to give you a detailed idea of the mechanism of how that there is change in length of the muscle in isotonic contraction and no change of length in muscle in the isometric contraction. Okay, here you can see in isometric contraction in the first one, this is the simple muscle. Okay, when the muscle in the figure B, there is contraction of the contractile component, that is you can see the red one. Okay, there is shortening of the red part of the figure, that is the contractile component. Okay, but the length of the muscle is not shortened because there is increase in the length of the series elastic component. This shortening is compensated by the series elastic component. You can see the attachment of the wire below the contractile component is lengthened in the B than that of the A. Okay, that is why there is no increase in length of the muscle in isometric contraction. The contraction of the contractile component is compensated by the lengthening of the series elastic component. Okay, now coming to the contractile component, isotonic contraction. Okay, here you can see that there is contraction in the figure C, it is the normal condition, and figure D, there is contraction of the muscle. Okay, here in this state there is no stretching of the low or very little bit stretching of the series elastic component and the parallel elastic component. There is why the contraction of the contractile component is not compensated, and there you can see shortening of the muscle length. Okay, in isotonic contraction there is shortening of the muscle length because the series elastic component and the parallel elastic component are not stretched. Okay,